ago, you could show everybody the violin.
Oh, that's a great idea, Laura.
Thanks.
I think our Hartman friends would like to see the violin.
I think so too.
And this is a very special violin. This was the very first instrument I ever played, and I was about 4 or 5 years old. And it was actually in this very same house, which is interesting too, fun fact. This little tiny violin is very, very old because other people before me played it. So it's well over 100 years old. And it was made in Czechoslovakia. And it's a real cute little thing. And if you were at parents' preschool, when I was a teacher there, you would have played this little violin probably, because for letter V, I used to bring in this little violin and let everybody try it. It's just a real cute little thing, and it's actually a very good instrument. Now you'll see my cello bow is a lot bigger than this bow because this violin was made for little persons, so the bow would also be smaller to go with it. And Lori's brought out a full-size violin. This is a full-size violin. Now, if you were going to get a violin at any age, you would try out the size, and if the violin fits in your hand like this with your arm straight, then that's the size you need. Now this is my son Corey's violin, and this was his grandfather's violin. Actually, it had been his great-grandfather's violin before that. And so it was my grandfather's violin, his great-grandfather's violin. It's hard to keep that straight. And Corey, this is a lovely violin. I do not play violin very well, but I can play it a little bit. I haven't played it for a while. Now you'll see that the violin bow is longer and skinnier than the cello bow. Now this violin bow, I think is, you can see it's a little bit longer and skinnier. Some violin bows are even longer than that, but you can see the stick of the cello bow is a little thicker. And the violin is in treble clef. On piano, the left hand and the right hand play different clefs. And the piano is treble clef and bass clef. And the violin is in treble clef. The cello is in bass clef. And the strings of the violin are G, D, A, E. And remember, the lowest string of the cello was a C, and then G, D, A. And the violin is G, D, A, and they add an E for the highest.
Hey, look what else I found.
This is a viola. This is the next size up. And actually, I believe their viola is a little bit bigger than this one, too.
Wow.
So this was my dad's viola. And he and I played in an orchestra in Pittsburgh together when I was in high school and college, and he played the viola. And the viola has a lovely lower tone. It has a lower tone, and it is often mistaken for a cello. When people hear it in music together with the cello, they might think it's a cello. I'm not going to play this viola right now. I encourage you, though, to look for YouTube videos of violin players and viola players, V-I-O-L-A, and other cello players, too. And the viola plays in what's called alto clef. It's a clef in between the treble clef and the bass clef. It's an alto clef. So that's what it plays. And the cello plays mostly bass clef, but it can also play in treble clef, like the violin, and it can play in a clef similar to alto clef that's called tenor clef. Now that's a lot for you guys to remember, but I just thought you might be interested in that. So,
I noticed the color. You know what that reminded me of?
yes, I told everyone that I would show you darker instruments. I'm going to show you a darker cello, and then remember my cello is a blonde, considered like a blonde cello, and then one of the other cellos we have in our house is darker. You can see how it's darker, and look at that viola, it's even darker. It's a lot darker.
Wow.
So it's really cool to see all different shades of instruments,
Very
and that
cool.
they aren't all just the same color and same pattern in the wood. Now, a string quartet, a quartet means four, a string quartet would consist of 2 violins and a viola and a cello. And I used to play in a string quartet when I was in college. And sometimes we'd have a quintet, we'd have 5 people in it too. We might add a flute, or we might add a double bass. Now the double bass is a whole lot bigger than a cello, and we'll include a picture of a double bass. We don't own a double bass, but Mr. Caldwell plays double bass, and double bass has a really cool sound. So you should also YouTube double bass and listen to some double bass being played. They play pizzicato a lot, and they also have a big fat bow that is held, the frog, the bottom part of the bow is really fat, and they hold it maybe with their fingers in it like this more than their hand on top like this.
And sometimes you'll see them plucking the strings too.
Yes, pizzicato, they will be plucking at pizzicato. So we will include some pictures of instruments with this video, and also a picture of an orchestra that shows where the violins and violas and cellos and basses would be, and where all the other instruments would be in an orchestra too. So have a good day, everybody.